Fantastic Saturday night. It is late night edition for Mopar Chat Live this evening. Basically, wanted to bring you guys a quick video this evening. Open it up for questions if you guys want to throw some questions my way about drive shaft testing that I've been up to with Little Miss Revlon. So the big thing here lately has been, me trying to track down that elusive, vibration that just seems to plague some Hellcats. I know some guys have not had an issue, other guys have with these aftermarket drive shafts. And one of the biggest issue that I've got, Dr. Diffs checking in and saying, "Hey, I got my shirt. Congrats, brother. Glad you finally got that thing." But one of the issues has plagued Hellcat owners, and let me just stop right there. It really hasn't affected the 392 guys or 5.7 guys, mainly because they're not throwing drive shafts in their cars. Really no reason to. The stock drive shaft will hold up just fine for 99.9% of the guys that are out there running around with 392s and 5.7s. But with the Hellcat, a little bit different story, and running a drive shaft is very important if you're going to be taking your car to the drag strip, running it on a drag pack the way that my car is run on. You're going to need something that is going to be able to handle the abuse and the rigors of just going out there and beating on the car on a prepared surface. Now, I'm going to stop right there and say this. If you're running around on drag radials on the street and you're not going to the drag strip, you're not going to need an aftermarket drive shaft. It just doesn't work like that. Your tires are going to act as a fusible link here, and what I mean by that is your tires will spin before your drive shaft gets loaded enough to actually fail, with one caveat here, and that's if you are all that are going to the drag effect, from what I can tell, and that's what over time makes the tail portion of that drive shaft fail, and you'll see it wadded up like a piece of spaghetti. So I enter the aftermarket, right? So the aftermarket comes to play here where you've got a more robust piece. You've got a part that is not going to fail under load. And that's a good thing. You've got QA1, DSS, just start picking names out of a hat. Wiles. You've got all these different drive shaft manufacturers that will make a drive shaft for the Hellcat. But then there's a twist here. The biggest issue is that vibration that I kind of started this whole conversation off with. How do we cure that vibration that seems to be so inherent with these cars? And for me, it just got to a point where, I couldn't deal with it anymore. And luckily, multiple Mopars reached out and said, "Hey, I've got this red-eye drive shaft, see if it'll work." And this is, for me, the best of all the worlds. And that is that it is a stock factory piece. It is, by all rights, significantly more robust than the stock Hellcat drive shaft. It's the same part number as the Demon drive shaft, and since my car is not making, you could argue, so fantastic. Put the thing in the car, but I wanted to put something to test a little bit, and the test, every manufacturer that's out there for drive shafts, or at least the ones that are mass marketed, have been, they'll claim better, better 60-foot times, better quarter-mile times, better eighth-mile times, whatever the case is. You always hear about that better in terms of performance. It's, it touted as being a durability mod, but they want to market it as being better, so I figured I would put that better to the test. Now, full disclosure here, the track prep was god-awful last night. Houston Raceway Park has been really good about having really good track prep leading into this past weekend and really the weekend before. Not making excuses here, it's just from what weekend general consensus was, the track prep was bad. So we were all fighting against the same issues. Not to mention the fact that all of us were running our normal ETs, but the mile an hour was showing low. And when I mean low, I mean significantly low. We're talking 2 to 3 miles an hour shy of where the cars normally run. Can't tell you why, although I can tell you that in data logs, probably picked up a little bit of a bad tank of gas with my car. This is, just me individually, where the car was pulling timing a little bit more than what it normally would, but about what you would expect if you had a stock Hellcat. with more or less stock knock sensor sensitivity on a bit of a crappy tank of gas. You're talking 2.5 to 3 degrees of timing here and there that it was pulling, where normally it would only pull about 1.5 degrees or 2, and that's pretty normal for a stock Hellcat. Well, it didn't really matter because the lack of timing typically doesn't hurt this thing, and going down the drag strip, it still ran 1060s all night, provided the car would hook up, which was a big what if for a lot of us. But we were all down mile an hour for whatever reason it was. But the ET is really the thing we were looking to find. 10.6 flat, 10.6.2. I'm not really worried about something was off there, but the 60 foot was 1.6 flat, switching it and trying to go for the best ET. So data there is a little bit off, but the time that the car did actually hook, which was early in the day, yeah, no, right? So at any rate, I can catch up with any of you guys in here. Sorry about this. Let me scroll down. Kata 376 is in, saying, hey, B. Mason, first time to your live chat, quick question. Where would be the best place to get a Demon/Red-Eye drive shaft? They seem to be VIN locked. They are, and you're going to have to know some with Red-Eye. They can keep up in that respect. You're going to have to work with. That's going to be the case. It is not going to be cheap. But that being said, I do prefer running a stock drive shaft on these cars if possible. And a stock Demon or a stock Red-Eye would get you there. But again, you're just going to have to know somebody. You've got to, it's a bit of a hassle. And it's stupid too. It makes no sense to me how a drive shaft, like a part, just a part, is going to be VIN locked. It makes no sense. I can go into any Chevrolet dealership, I can go into any Ford dealership and order a ZL1 part. I can order ZR1 parts. I can order Z06 parts for anything if I wanted to hang them on my wall. But Mopar is going to VIN lock these things? That's stupid, man. That's another thing that, not to just completely get off on a tangent here, but let's take a walk real quick. So back in the day, you had the Scat Pack, and the Scat Pack was the performance arm of Mopar, and that was, the hot rod parts and everything else. Then fast forward just a little bit, you had Direct Connection. Same type of an idea, that Mopar's performance division, same as Ford Motorsports and etc., right? But in this day and age, when you cannot buy a stock part that is just more durable, so that the guys that are actually out there running the cars the way that these cars are marketed to be driven, with rock and roll tire smoke and all that other stuff, and claims of quarter mile and 0 to 60 performance, inner chiller-esque type parts and what have you, on the Demon and on the Red-Eye, that I can't take the thing to a drag strip. It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. So yeah, anyway, off of my soapbox, but yeah, that's the route you got to take, unfortunately. Let's see. Dr. Div saying, internet sucks out here towards Austin. Out seeing my oldest son, and internet is choppy. Sucks too, because I'm missing parts of what you're saying. Much interest. Yeah, sorry about that. I think half of it's on my end. In fact, it's probably all on my end. Richard Martin is asking, is $8,000 normal ballpark for a cam and a tune? That's what SRT AutoWorks in Arizona told me. No, not on a 392 or a 5.7. They said they need to unlock the computer and such. Just wonder if I should look elsewhere. So the actual work itself, yeah, about $400 to $4,500 depending on parts and labor rates. And unlocking the computer is $250, and then I don't know what they're going to charge you for tuning. But yeah, it seems a little bit excessive for $8,000 for a cam. They should be definitely doing more than that. Yeah, I mean, I know you're in Arizona, but it doesn't really matter where you are on planet Earth. That would be excessive. Hell, you could ship it down here to Houston to Pikes Performance, and they would do it for less than that. So, and that includes unlocking the computer and the tune and the install. And you'd have one of my cams in the car. Dr. Dip is asking, saying they had a great prep at Cletus and Cars. My truck dead hooked. Yeah, well, I can tell you this. It got ruined between Cletus and Cars, or between the track night at least and Cletus and Cars. That's for sure. Let's see. Dr. Div's asking, do you know if there's a transmission-based table for the knock sensors? For some reason, when mine hits 5th at wide open, it will pull 8 degrees. There's not that I'm aware of. The only knock sensor sensitivity is going to be in the engine portion of the tune. You're probably looking at check out, instead of just the voltage, check out the multiplier. Maybe bring the multiplier down a little bit. But yeah, I would say no, and I would check timing at that point too. Also, too, trucks, for some reason, to that point, trucks on the 4.5 almost always yank a ton of timing, and I'm not exactly sure why. I don't know if it's other noise that's going on in there. I mean, I've seen them do it on stock tunes running premium, so I'm almost positive that it's false knock. I just don't know why that seems to be that way. Dr. Diff can also do it too, yeah, on the cam, saying, damn, that's almost double on his cost in cam tune. Yeah, it's ridiculous. I don't know why anybody would be quoting you $8 unless they just did not want to touch that car. Also, you can go through either one of those guys and you can option for one of my ported intake manifolds. Let's see, Floyd Up saying, hey, Mr. B, I think I saw you at HRP last night. Did not get a chance to say hey. I agree with the trap speeds. I ran a 1064 at 126 on a 148 60 foot with a 104 8th mile trap speed. No kidding, right? So check it out. Then Floyd and I, yeah, you should have come by and said hi, man. So Floyd has got he's got my truck. But he has got a drop dead sweet white SS 454. And his truck and my car run identical ET in mile an hour, I think, at this point. And if he's saying he went 1064 at 126 with a 148 60 foot with a $1.04 in the 8th, man, I mean, I was right there with you. I ran 6.0 and 6.5 at 127, which is low for my car, but I also was going 104 through the 8th. So I don't know what it was. I can tell you that Chris's car, if you remember him, he's got the orange Hellcat. His car went 1080s, but his mile an hour he was showing 124 on mile an hour, which I thought was really weird because he was faster through the 1,000 foot than he'd ever been with that car and quicker through the quarter. I had just put one of my trans tunes on his car, and I mean, the thing was running like a banshee, but you know, even based on what he was running out the back door with a slightly taller tire setup than mine, 6,100 RPM, he should have been like 129, 130, and he was showing 124, 126. He might have shown as high as 127. I can't remember, but yeah, it was way off. Dr. Div saying, definitely false knock and saying always need the B-Mason intake. I will start porting them again here pretty soon. So, like I say, I'll typically do them for about a month, and then I'll get away from it for about 4 or 5 months, just because it takes so much time to port one intake manifold, and I do everything by hand, and you know, some of them take a lot longer to do than others. So I usually will, you know, I'll have my fill of them for about a month, and then I run for the hills after that. But do that about twice a year. Let's see. Alt is saying, hey man, lifters went out, but my oil PSI was on 6 when I Crocker, can a lifter failure and cam failure cause low oil PSI and a misfire? Absolutely, and yes. Floyd is saying, I'm normally in the 128 to 130 mile an hour trap, so I thought something was a little bit off. Yep, brother, it was then, man. Then you are in good company. Same here. This car, the way it sits now, should never be under 128.8 to 129.2. So, you know, typically it's around 130. So it sounds to me like, you know, your truck and my car run very similar. And, you know, if you're saying you were running slow, then that makes me feel a little bit better. Like I say, Chris was off. Robert was off. Robert's car can't help but go 130 in the quarter, and he was at 100. I think he finally hit 129, and on that pass he went a 1057, but at 129, which is way low. That car, the way his car mile an hour is, that would have been about a 131 and a half, really. Tim's checking in, saying, what up, B? I dig the content. Keep the good work. I got the arm flex and the thumbs up. 454 is real. Man, I love those trucks. The 454 SS and the 350 SS trucks, man, I dig those so much. Like a childhood dream car for me. So, for sure, loving it. Blackbird saying, really on the fence about Monty and Jeep Trackhawk. Yeah, I can understand that. He's saying, thinking about doing a Illinois S. Don't do that. No. The S800 package, they're local to them. The injectors, E85 Flex 2 claims 85 horsepower. Look, man, I don't want to badmouth any tuners. I don't want to badmouth any shops. It was kind of a knee-jerk reaction. Anytime I see Livernois in a tune, I kind of cringe. Only because I've seen what they've done with pulleyed and whatnot, flex fuel tune on Trackhawk. It just, I don't know, man. It kind of PTSD on that deal with them. Not saying that they're bad, but man, I can only tell you what I've personally seen and the results that I've seen with those vehicles, and they might be cool as long as you're not trying to run a flex fuel type tune. In that respect, it could be good, and you know, I don't want to misconstrue one tune versus another because they are different. That being said, we've had hell with Livernois tune, or with a Livernois tune Trackhawk. I'm sure that there are others out there that do just fine, and you will be told that every other Trackhawk works great. But we got one down here in Houston that blew up. So there's that. I'll just leave it at that. Let's see. Oh, Michael Marks is saying, every now and then I notice a puff of blue smoke comes out of my exhaust when I cold start the 5.7. Perfectly normal. Hoping it isn't a valve stem seal. No. Could a PCV valve be sticking be the problem? No. What it is when you cold start the car, especially during the warmer months, it seems to be more the case, but cold months too. But you just won't notice it when it's cold, typically because of condensation. But what happens is if you're not running a catch can, you can be circulating quite a bit of oil and condensation vapors and things like that through your intake manifold. I can tell you that on some 5.7s, when I've received the intake manifold, I always ask if it's a shop sending me an intake manifold, clean the intake manifold as much as possible before you get it to me. It helps me out a ton because they will be saturated with oil. In some cases, they're holding oil, and what happens is the oil gets into the intake. It's atomized or atomized. When that air charge gets pulled down the runner, it will coat the runner with oil, and as the car sits, that oil will just drip onto the back of the intake valve. Go to fire the vehicle up, and it will just suck the oil in, and you'll get that quick puff of blue smoke, and then it clears out pretty quickly. So that's probably where that's coming from, or at least more than likely where that's coming from. Richard's asking Doc Diff about the Cammon stuff, so they're chatting right now. So no, getting back to it though, guys, I know that I'm kind of like the Debbie Downer of the Mopar scene, but you know, I'm the one that's out there actually doing the testing. I've got a drag strip right down the street from where I live, and so because I'm out there testing these components, I'm finding that the results that the manufacturers are claiming just don't exist. And again, when it comes to this drive shaft thing, which again, I've become like, it's turned into like a Zen, like black belt level status ability for me to swap out drive shafts at this point. You know, I can tell you that it's frustrating as hell for me to put the heaviest drive shaft that you can put in a Challenger is in my car now. And there was no difference in keeping in mind that the track was terribly prepped. There's no difference between a lightweight aluminum drive shaft versus the heaviest stock drive shaft that you can get for one of these cars. No real difference in mile an hour, at least anecdotally, because, you know, again, we've got to assume that the traps were off, especially now, you know, hearing some backup on that. You know, I'll tell you, that's frustrating. It goes back to that, cold airs, and all the rest of the crap. I can tell you what works, but the other thing is I can also tell you what doesn't work, and I can tell you that tuning and everything else, it's funny with these Mopars, the tuning part of it doesn't seem to get as much love as it should, and the actual hard parts, the hardware, seems to get a lot more pub than it should in terms of actual performance gains. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact, like in the case of the drive shaft, because that's what we're talking about, so many guys will put the drive shaft in their car because they're worried about their stock drive shaft breaking, when in reality, the car should have a more robust drive shaft in it from the factory. And I get it, it's a fusible link for the car, potentially helping to keep you from breaking a rear end. Well, that's fine, and anybody can swap out a drive shaft at home, provided they've got the right tools. And diff is going to be a little bit more of a proposition, but I'll tell you this, it sucks to think that I can't take my car to the drag strip with the stock drive shaft or suffer the consequences of just vibration if I run a aftermarket one-piece drive shaft on my car. So anyway, just a bit of a rant on that. I wanted to give you guys a bit of just an update more than anything else on the car, let you know what we're up to, and if there is a difference between the ET or mile an hour between an aftermarket lightweight aluminum drive shaft and the red eye / demon option, if you want to call it that, for these cars, or if you have a red eye or you have a demon and you think that throwing a lightweight drive shaft in the car is going to net you any results, and you're doing it for performance and you're not doing it as a durability modification, which I can maybe see an argument there, that performance gain does not exist, at least not from what I can tell. If there is something there, it's not measured in tenths, it's not measured in hundredths, it might be measurable in thousandths of a second. And ain't none of y'all out there getting paid to run a thousandth, whatever they are, of a second quicker in your red eye, demon, or in your Hellcat. I can assure you that. Tim saying, B-Man, the way I see it on the SRTs, nothing needs changing to aftermarket. True that. All the stock headers, intake, etc. is good enough straight from Mopar. Man, I'll tell you, it is. And, you can, I would say, modify the stock parts, or at least think of it more as blueprinting the stock parts if we're talking about a manifold, maybe a fast man throttle body. But I got to be honest with you, I have yet to see solid gains with any aftermarket part. Now, long tubes they're so freaking debatable. Partial throttle, yeah. Tip-in torque, maybe a little bit more, but it's okay. It goes back to, okay, well, I keep hearing that the headers make the car make more power when they don't. That they simply don't. Not at the level that they're claiming, for sure. And partial throttle torque and all of that, drivability, yeah, there may be an improvement, but there's certainly not the up to 5 or 7% more power that you'll see. All of that is coming from the tune, and even then, that tune making that much more power in concert with the long tubes is questionable at best. I mean, it certainly is enough to raise some eyebrows. So, again, it's going back to the whole argument of at what point are the claims fraudulent? At what point do you go back to the manufacturer and just say, look, I bought your part. I installed your part. I've got the best of the best tuning my car and nowhere near the power number that you gave me. What is your recourse at that point? I don't know that you have one, because the manufacturer says up to. Well, show me the results. Let me put together a combination that was identical to where you found these results, and let's see if we can, replicate those conditions. Are we talking about a car with a cam and a blower and a this and a that and everything else, and that's what it took to get this extra power out of the thing? seems a little bit suspect. So I agree with you there. Stock, it's really tough to beat an SRT. In other words, we're talking about a 392 car. It's very difficult to beat one of those cars with aftermarket parts. Sound-wise, maybe, but man, the stock stuff does very well. Dr. Div said, oh, he's talking to Jason, saying he swears by Amsoil. Absolutely, it's good stuff. Let's see. Some Foxes saying, not sure if you answered this while the video was cutting out. Let's see. Oh, I didn't see this. Said some, might have been placed when we had a kind of a blackout there for a minute. It says, so I've been looking at buying a used Camaro SS. I found one I like, but it had had damage to the front right of the car. However, it's passed several inspections since accident. Should I be concerned? Yeah. Unless you're looking to, unless you're getting the car for half off a Kelley Blue Book value, I wouldn't even consider a car that's been in a wreck. There's too much that can happen downstream. Just not worth it, in my opinion. Again, unless you are just super deep discounted on that vehicle. Let's see. Blackbird's asking, any bolt-ons on the Hellcat engine that can wake up the car for cheap, or what have you seen? Thanks, BU and Mopar, man. Appreciate it. Thank you very much, Blackbird. Actually, there's one. The one that I'm talking about are the lightweight pulleys. God dang it, and the name of the place is escaping me. But not Metco, the other guy, the guy that does the guns. Somebody will know who I'm talking about. Anyway, the lightweight pulleys actually picked up half a tenth. I know that that's silly, but it worked. And again, it's a bolt-on thing, and to me, it's kind of a durability deal. I believe he's using 18,000 RPM bearings now. So far as I can tell, no durability questions with that particular modification. And I did idler pulley and both. I did idler and both idlers and the tensioner pulley. Sorry, and the car seems to love it, you know. And Chris, I know, picked up about half a tenth, 3 to 400ths. I picked up right at 400ths, and I think with my tune, with the car revving a little bit higher, it probably picked up about the same as Robert did with his. Robert Eden, the guy that helped Chris and Robert helped me put the 309 in the car. They both have Hellcats, and we all have the same pulleys, and basically all the cars picked up a little bit. Now, as far as throttle bodies and things like that, man, I would love to tell you that the throttle bodies have worked on these cars. I haven't really seen it, but I think that has to do more with the fact that the snout can only flow so much. And on this pulley ratio, on a stock pulley ratio, oh shit, we had an earthquake. Time out. Time out. Time out. Man, we're having all kinds of fun problems this evening. Here we go. Time out here. Oh my goodness. Hang on. The whole kit and caboodle busted down here. Here we go. All right. We're back. Back in business. I don't know why it just cracks me up whenever that happens. Anyway. I'm sorry, getting back to it. Haven't really seen any major gains there unless you've really got the thing spooled up on boost. At that point, you might see some gain. Well, you will see some gains at that point, but at stock boost or near stock, you just don't really see any difference. As far as cold air intakes, nothing. I mean, you know, it kind of goes back to the idea of where are you going to see or where are you going to make an improvement over stock. It's either got to be drastically lower in temperature, which is going to be difficult to improve over stock there, or it's got to flow significantly more, which again is going to be very difficult to improve over the stock parts. And regardless of what the manufacturers for the aftermarket will tell you, at the drag strip and on the street where it matters, not on a dyno, not seeing any significant gains with any manufacturer's aftermarket bolt-on, either intake manifold or intake cold air intake, if you want to call it that, or filter for that matter, or running no filter for that matter. So if you've got the car really, really dialed up, again, Running no filter or running a screen type apparatus might help, but the reality is that bolt-ons, they're just not going to yield any marketable increase in performance. Let's see. Let's see. Almost lost it again. Look at that. Saved it that time. Hang on. This is how tonight's going to be, folks. Comedy galore over here. All right, back in the mix, man. God, this is great. Okay. Sorry, get back to it. Michael Marks is asking, saying, Jason, I don't have a catch can and I use Pennzoil Ultra Platinum. I've never seen Amsoil for sale on a Walmart shelf. Yeah, no, I don't see it ever being there either. Let's see. Michael Marks saying, have you ever watched Nick's Garage? Yes, I have. Fastidious lull in my my contraption's inability to stay stuck where it's supposed to be. Let's see. Oh, let's see. Machine with something. Can't read it. Too many letters. What are your thoughts on Strandman's Hellcat Swap Gladiator? Actually, we've got a few, what is it? Texas Off-Road down here is big into putting Hellcat engines into Jeeps, JKs basically, and they're a lot of fun. And so yeah, I love them. They're pretty cool. If you've got everything else built to be able to handle it, then it's good. I haven't seen that Gladiator, but I can tell you that I've seen quite a few 6.4 swaps, which actually is a really nice swap in a Jeep. I've seen the 5.7 swaps, which is more common, and the Hellcat swaps, which are kind of out there. The one that I drove had 456 gears, and it was pretty sick. Let's see. Squidward's still on a 98 Cobra versus 08 RT. Which would win? No telling of what if it's an automatic or a manual in the 08 RT. But I would probably say that if it's automatic, the 08 RT would give that 98 a fit. But that's a pretty good question. Depends on who's driving the Cobra too, because that will have a manual transmission. Completely different driving experience between the two cars, but if I were to pick one for myself, I would probably pick the 98 Cobra just for nostalgic reasons. But that 08 would be a lot of fun, and it's a pretty torquey little setup, but they're heavy. So I'm going to give it to the 98 Cobra, not to mention the fact that you could go with a set of 430 gears in that 98 Cobra or 410s, where you're not really going to have a lot of options. The 98 Cobra is just going to be more fun to own. The ownership experience would be a little bit better with that car, I think, than an 08 RT. Fastidious saying nice save. Thanks, man. So, at any rate, that's pretty much what I got going on tonight. You know, I figured I would bring you guys some data on the drive shaft thing. It's always frustrating as hell whenever we run into issues with the traps and things like that. So, I'm pretty bummed out about that. But that'll happen from time to time. Make sure I didn't miss anybody in here. But yeah, it's always a bummer when stuff like that happens. And I can tell you, Michael Marks is asking, have you ever raced a manual Hellcat at the track? No, I've never driven one at the drag strip. I've driven them on the street quite a bit, but no, I haven't raced one at the drag strip. I can tell you that the drag strip is not that car's natural environment. I can tell you that they're fun to drive, but they're a little bit numb. I think that they need a more aggressive gear set in that 6-speed. Figure it out. Figure out a way to make it work. But when you're talking about 4,400 pounds minimum with the driver in the car, more than likely closer to 4,500 pounds, a 2.2 anything first gear with a 370 rear end is not going to get it done regardless of how much power you're making. The car just feels a bit sluggish down low, and there's really not a good, or not a better way to put it. The cars just feel a bit lazy. If you're to ask me which do I prefer, I mean, if I'm just playing around with them, I'd rather have a 392 with a 6-speed. At least it'll have a more aggressive gear set. The car will feel more punchy. You get the Hellcat, third gear is really where you're going to feel the power start to come in. But by that time, you've already noticed that the car is a bit of a slouch down low. Whereas the 392 cars, you're just too busy having fun with that manual. So, yeah, now, I mean, like I said, I've driven them on the street, but never at the drag strip. Probably won't either. Machine saying, I'm here in Texas, never heard of anybody swapping Hellcats engines into Jeeps. Who again? Is there a specific organization? It is, and the name is escaping me, but Pike Performance, Alex, has done tunes on quite a bit of their Jeeps, and it is, God dang it. By the time I'll get off of here, it'll just pop into my head, but it is a place here in Houston that has been building them, and it's Texas. God dang it. I will remember it for sure at some point. I'll find out for you. But yeah, there was a couple of them that we've done, and it was a pain in the ass actually, because we were using, for whatever reason, I don't know why they did it like this, but a 6.4 liter computer. So we had to make a 6.4 computer work with a Hellcat, if you can believe that. I think it has something to do with a body control module or something like that. But, that's like expert level stuff. And I'm just I can do what I can do, and I do pretty good at how what I'm able to do, but that's some expert level shit. Anyway, it'll come to me, but it's a Houston-based company that does those. And again, lots of 5.7s, lots of 6.4s ran through the shop, as well as the supercharged V6s, which they're okay. Michael's asking, no, you mean race against one with the auto? Have I raced against a? Oh, yeah, a couple of times, and it wasn't even close. My car versus the manual Hellcat. It's just the cars are. First of all, you have to have the right tire on the back of the car. Realistically, you need to be running bias plies on that car. Most of the guys aren't. To really get the best out of it, prefer a different clutch in it, more than likely. Clutch, the limiter mod, it needs to have been done to that car, and for sure you're going to want to invest in a different clutch, probably over stock, for that car to even be remotely competitive. Now, you start throwing a ton of power at the car, it might be a different story, but again, when you're talking about the mass of that car with a clutch, it's going to be tough to come even close to one of these things. It's not even, fortunately, it's not even worth talking about. Dr. Div saying, his dad finally cooked his clutch. What do you think of the twin disc McLeods with the lightweight flywheel? They're nice. They're real nice. Dr. Div saying AEV is the name. That might be one of them. Michael saying Black Mountain Jeeps does Hellcat engine swaps. That is another one that I'm aware of. But it's Texas off-road, Texas 4x4 shit, man. I'm going to have to figure it out. AEV does the V8 Hemi Jeeps. Yeah, maybe it is, man. I don't know. For some reason, it's not ringing a bell. And they were an account with us for a while, and I just cannot, for some reason, just blanking on me. I don't know. It's late, and I don't have enough coffee. Let's see. Let's see. Richard and Dr. Diff are hanging out. Dr. Diff saying wait till Tuesday. Let's see. Machine saying haven't really been into the auto industry, but he's asking if the Hellcat engine and the Red Eye are different. Heard the Red Eye is different, just tuned differently. My understanding is that the Red Eye is the Demon engine. If you've ever had one apart, the pistons and rods are a little bit different in the Red Eye and in the Demon. If you've ever held a set of Molnar pistons and rods, they look very similar. At least the pistons do. So that would be the one place I would say that they are different. But aside from that, not really. The main thing is just the supercharger is larger. The programming in the ECU is significantly different, but only in that it is a bit softer than what the Hellcat's tune is. But the knock sensor sensitivity and the air-fuel ratio that it's commanding, or in this case, the fuel-air ratio that it's commanding, all of that is identical. Again, even at the same loads, the Red Eye and the Demon ECUs are just softer. I think that has a little bit more to do with the heat, because I know that larger supercharger does create more heat. Let's see. The boys run and saying, what's up, B-Mason? What's up, man? As a matter of fact, it's kind of funny. The Demons are, and the Red Eyes, it's a pretty special car. I mean, there's a lot of upgrades that are in those cars to make them and to help them run some pretty stout numbers, but I don't know, man. I'm still really partial to my Hellcat. I don't know if I'd ever have the heart to get rid of my Hellcat. And not for a Red Eye or not for a Demon. It would have to be for something just obnoxious, but man, this thing has been so much fun. I can't tell you the last time I've had more fun with a car than with this car that I have. I've driven some really fast stuff before, but you drive one really fast car, you've kind of driven them all. The ones that are exciting to drive are the turbo Mustangs are a lot of fun. The Pro Charge Mustangs are fun because they really don't come in until the big end, and then it's just really hard rush on the top end. It's just a different driving experience, but because of how these cars make power, all that torque down low, and they kind of fade off a little bit on the big end, you get a great launch, but after that, you're just kind of along for the ride. I'm not saying that it's not exciting, and not saying that it's slow or slow feeling. It's just that it's just a different way of going about things, and these things are so much fun to just play with that I don't know, man. I've had some questions of would I get another car? Oddly enough, one of the weirder one, but almost more appropriate questions that I've had was, have I ever thought of getting rid of my Hellcat for a Supra, one of the new Supras? Only because I've said in the past that I love the import stuff, I always have. Always been a big fan of front wheel drive, fast, hot hatches and all that. Huge fan of those cars. And I really do like the Supra. I'm really intrigued by that car and would love to get my hands on one. And one of the questions was, would I get rid of my Hellcat to do a Supra build? Mainly because people have said, I thought it'd be good for the channel and all this other stuff. No, not even a hint of a thought of that. I mean, I've looked at the Supra and thought, man, that's a neat looking car. I can appreciate it for what it is, but I don't know that I would ever actually own one. Mainly because I like going on long trips. This thing soaks up miles like you would not believe, and I just don't think I'd ever be truly happy with that car. It just doesn't embody anything from other experiences that I've had. So anyway, that question has come up. I figured I'd throw that out there. Kind of a weird off-the-wall one, but yeah. Oh, Fast Man, Texas Truck Works. Yes, God bless it. I don't know why I couldn't remember the name. Yeah, Texas Truck Works is who does those. Who was doing those Hemi swaps, Hemi swaps and LS swaps. We had one of the TTS or TTW trucks that was an LS3 with a Magnuson supercharger. That one could have been a little bit better. The boy said, not much, thanks for the advice on the C7 Corvette. I've been looking into Grand Sports and already got my colors and interior I want picked out. Man, I love the Grand Sports. Michael Marks is asking if I know David. Yep, he has an Arrington 426 with a Pro Charger put in at Pikes. He also has a YouTube channel. Yes, one of my camshafts is in David's car. In fact, I ground it specifically for his car. The boy saying, would you get rid of your Hellcat for the rumored CUDA Dodge is supposed to be coming up with? Man, I don't know what the specs are. I don't even know what they're talking about that car being. And it's difficult for me at this stage to say that I would get rid of my car for a CUDA in this case, because I don't know what it is. I mean, we can speculate that it's just maybe a lighter weight, different, the next generation version of the Challenger, and moving forward the new platform. I don't know, man. I don't know that I would have any more fun with it. And you got to remember, the car is a 10-second car now, right? So what's it going to take to have more fun than what I'm already having? It's got a 309 gear. It's trapping very strong in the quarter mile. There's a fun factor that I would have to be able to, I'd have to capture a fun factor and capture a value proposition with that CUDA that I don't know is really going to be there. You got to remember that you got to pay the Mopar tax, and that in and of itself is enough to make you almost start to shy away, right? So, I don't know. Is the CUDA going to be so far and away better and so far and away faster to make me want to get rid of my Hellcat, which is an early release, or at least an early production, 2015, the first year of the Hellcat, born in November no less. To get rid of my Hellcat, to get something like the CUDA, it would take something obscenely special from Mopar to make me break away. I won't ever say no, but I can at least give you this. If that car would do something for me, really pull at some heartstrings and would benefit the channel in some way, maybe. And it's a soft maybe. But I'm having too much fun with this thing. I can't really see there being any real reason to move away from it. Let's see. Machine's asking, do you have any mods to it? Talking about this one. Yeah, I mean, it's got a 309 gear, stock boost, no timing, just a little bit of fuel added, and a transmission tune, Mopar rear seat delete, no catch can. I'm running the stock airbox with a stock filter and a red-eye drive shaft, courtesy of multiple Mopars. But that's it. It's just one of my super mild transmission tunes, and the car loves it, so that's what I'm sticking with. But very stock, though, in my approach. Very minimalistic with my approach to this car, and the goal is to try to get the thing into the 10 teens for my track event in January. If it runs 20s, that's really more the number that I'm gunning for, but it'd be kind of cute to get a teen out of the car. I'll throw a little bit of race gas in it for that event, but I'm not going to mess with timing because I'm a little bitch, and when it comes to my own stuff, I'm not going to take any unnecessary risks. But yeah, a little bit of 100 octane for the colder weather, and I think it'll do just fine. Let's see. Machine's asking, you heard about the flat plane V8 twin turbo rumor that has been floating for the C8 Z06 engine? No, there's a lot of rumors that have been floating around about that. Flat planes kind of not really getting a lot of love right now. Realistically, I don't really see it happening. Dual overhead cam 6.2 liter, I have heard of, as well as a Z06, the LS9, or LT4 rather, whatever, alphabet soup. But yeah, I've definitely heard of there being some, there is going to be some power upgrades and options there, but twin turbo, I don't know. I don't think that I would be, I don't think I would jump through hoops yet just to run with that rumor. The boy saying, keep your Hellcat. Yeah, I just don't see there being any strong reason to move away from that platform. Again, I'm just having too much fun with the car. What fuel is best for a cool, good D8 in a Demon? I like 100 octane, straight 100 octane. No reason to go any more than that. I haven't seen any variation to convince me otherwise. And with Ray's Demon, bone stock, we went 978 with that car, pulling the front tires off the ground on just straight Sunoco 100. So, yeah, there's that. So stick with the 100, you'll be good. Hold on, there's a Mopar tax. Never heard of that. Yeah, anything with a Mopar name on it's just going to be more expensive. Tim Fast Car said, I understand your attraction with your Hellcat. I dig these Mopars 2015 and up. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to argue with what works, and that's kind of my argument here is, there's only a few cars that I actually really, really liked playing with, when you're at the shop. And when I say play, when I'm getting data on a car, I may as well be wearing a white lab coat. There's been only a couple of cars that I actually enjoyed collecting data on. One of them was, or has always been, just stock Hellcats. Always had a fun time with those cars, collecting data. The others are, what's known as what Pike's Performance calls a Bravo package, which is lower pulley, upper pulley, no cats with E85. Those cars are a lot of fun. But in stock form or close to stock, the Z06, very, very nice car to drive. Stock Hellcats are nice. There was there was a couple of resto mods that were nice. There was a 62 D100 that was real nice. 6.1 with a nag 1 swap into that thing. So high dollar builds are usually pretty well sorted, but that truck wasn't yet. We were just doing the engine tune. But nothing really impressed me. And, when you're around this stuff for a while, nothing really, not for nothing, guys, but nothing really gets your attention. Oh, man, that was so awesome. It's all numbers and data and everything else like that. But every once in a while, a car would come by that would just be fun, or it was familiar in some warm and fuzzy feeling way. And one of those cars is actually the 392 cars with a 6-speed manual. Those cars are fun only because it's kind of like just driving an old school big car with a manual transmission. But aside from that, again, it would. So I guess what I'm saying is after you've driven and collected data on cars with 800-900 horsepower to the rear wheels, it really becomes, it's more of an academic exercise at that point. And it's a matter of making sure the car stays straight, making sure nothing looks weird in the data, making sure nothing is out of the ordinary, and making sure that everything is safe with that vehicle, so that when we would turn that vehicle over to the customer, to the owner, that car is in a way that it can handle whatever that owner was going to throw at it. And so that's the only, in terms of, was it fun? Was it neat? What other cars? Why would I say that I love my Hellcat? I'm not going to really do much else to it. It's because I've experienced lots and lots and lots of power, and it's not that I'm going to say I came away from the experience wanting or anything like that. I mean, it is exciting when these things start to gather speed, but when you're just getting data, you're not really paying attention to the fun part of it. You're just paying attention to the job that you're there to do. And the times when I did have, I was like, man, this thing is fun. This is a lively car. It was never with the really high horsepower cars. It was always with something that was a little bit different, a little bit out of the ordinary, or the other swing back. The stuff that was stock that was, just would give you kind of a warm and fuzzy feeling whenever you would take it out. So you got kind of bookended on either end there. But the stuff that was big, super high horsepower, neat, but not overwhelming. I'll put it to you that way. And by the way, there were some builds where you would have thought, oh my God, that thing's got to be a monster to drive. Not even close. There's been some cars that on the dyno made big numbers that were actually kind of a snooze fest to drive on the street. Dr. Div saying, I want a part of that January track event. Call me. We'll get you set up, brother. Michael Marks, any complaints about your Hellcat when you daily drive it? The only complaint that I had was the brake dust. And whenever we would take the car on long road trips, that would be the one thing that would just drive me nuts. To the point where, I would immediately wash the thing when we would get back, and the brake dust would be a big deal. The power stop it was Z26s that I put on the car. Solved that problem, although the initial bite isn't as good. You kind of learn to work around that. But as far as brake pads go, they don't dust, which to me was a good deal. I've never had, and this is the one good thing I can say about this car, I've never had a complaint about the car driving it around just in general. You know, we'll get in it, you know, take it for a spin around town, or, you know, just taking it running errands or whatnot, and no issues. I mean, the cars are pretty much bomb-proof in that respect. They're fun, but if I did have any other complaint, I would say that on stock tires, it's practically useless. You pretty much want to run drag radials all the time. I run the Nitto Tri-5 Rs, and I mean, I was out doing NVH testing in the rain, running over 100 miles an hour with this thing, and it was as smooth as silk and didn't have any issues with those drag radials in the wet. So, and I had enough confidence to be spinning them up to, you know, 105, 110, you know, pretty decent acceleration at that, and didn't have any issues with them. So, but the two complaints, brake dust and the stock tires, are just a joke. But other than that, they're great cars. Let's see. Oh, Machine's asking, wonder how the 2020 GT500 is going to behave with power gains. Don't have to wait too long for that. Multiple Mopars has got one coming, and he will be letting us know how that thing responds to mods. So check out his channel. If you're not subscribed, do it now. My colleague saying 19 Scat Pack wide body, first mod to do while maintaining warranty? Question mark. While maintaining warranty with that car, what would be the best mod to do? Tough to say, aside from a Fastman throttle body and a ported intake manifold, which won't really change anything too much as far as, you know, you're not going to need a tune for that. It would be the only unrecognizable mods that you could do to the car that wouldn't require any mods in terms of cracking the ECU or anything like that. So start with there and pretty much in there. Oh, well, Hellcat airbox and Hellcat air filter for sure. That is actually a worthwhile thing to do to the car. Again, Hellcat intake, Hellcat airbox just to cool off the intake charge a little bit. Hellcat filter, because it does flow significantly more than the filter that's in the car now. And it's still a factory part. Say, watching most of your videos, I believe most bolt-ons are a waste of money. They are, and that's the most effective bolt-ons to the car. Really, the way you sit right now, just do the Hellcat stuff and let it rip. And you know, get the rest of the stuff later on, but I can tell you that those will be the two that will help the most. Floyd Huff saying, I need to get with you also about the track rental. Do I need to give you a deposit or anything to reserve a spot? Yes, and in fact, I will be reaching out to everybody this weekend, actually, getting everybody paid up and get your slots reserved so that we can, you know, just get everything solidified and move forward with it. The date's already held, the date's already there. It's January the 11th. But yeah, we are definitely going to be getting that thing wrapped up, get everybody's slots locked in. And then once that takes place, then we just have to wait till January the 11th to have some fun. I'm looking forward to it. Tim Fastcars, we make some. What is the best wheel and tire size for the Demon? The best wheel and tire size, depends on what you're going to do with it, but I think it's 20 by 11 for the rears is what most of the guys are running. 17 by 10 and a halves work great for the rears also. For a 305 45-17 if you're stock power. But man, I don't know, dude. So for me, if you're asking me personally, stock. If you're asking me for what I put on mine, you know, the 11-inch wide welds work really well. I think they make an 18-inch that works, I think an 18 by 11, I want to say, weld RTSs or whatever it is. Go with something like that. And you'll be fine for drag racing if you just want something other than the factory stuff. You know, the question then comes up, what about lightweight brake kits and all this other? Man, look, I just can't. I can't sign off on it. The reason why I can't sign off on it is, number one, it's a demon, and the more stock you keep it, the more special it'll be. If you want to build a hot rod, red eye probably the best way to go. If you're looking to do something aftermarket, then yeah, go with the welds. I would still run a 28-inch tall tire on the back of that car. I wouldn't try to cheat it up with 29s. A lot of the guys that try to cheat it up on 29s and then try to launch it off the trans brake, that's how you break parts on those cars. Man, stick with what works. I've run the set of stock tires on the back of one of those cars modified and have pedaled and skated that thing to 9-second quarter mile times in the heat. But again, it was a modified, fairly well modified Demon. Man, again, it depends on really what you're going for with the car. Stick with a set of welds and you'll be good. I'll just leave it at that. I don't want to see you spend a ton of money on the thing with, you know, the 15-inch conversion and all this other stuff. I just don't really see a benefit with that car at stock power levels. If you've got a well-prepped track, you'll be in good shape. If you are running on, oh, by the way, the track prep for the track rental will be radial prep is what I'm shooting for. So, yeah, if you're running slicks, it's going to be real sticky for you guys. So, but anyway, like super sticky. So air up accordingly. But, man, like I say, bone stock Demon with really good track prep, actually the best wheel and tire setup to run is going to be something that is going to be about 28 inches tall. Any more than that, you're giving up too much gear ratio through tire height. James checking in and saying, what up, brother? What up, James? Then boys saying, my colleague, just get a 2020 Scat Pack. They're supposed to come with wide body. You can get one of those in a wide body. Dr. Dude saying, I just put Nitto 420s on mine. I wanted the Tri-5R, but they didn't make it in a size for me. Oh, man. Let's see. Dr. Dude saying I can still have them at 60 miles an hour. Let's see. Although they are softer. God's junk checking in. I don't know what has more muscle, you or your car. Well, I don't have any muscle anymore. I'm back in the gym soon enough. I jacked up my freaking left knee, man. I've been kind of playing that off, but yeah, I dinged it up pretty good. And of all things, I jacked it up working on heavy bag. So, yeah, I was doing some footwork transitioning and came over onto my left. Went to throw a shovel hook and actually kind of slipped. Bad footwork on my part. I tried to do a quick transition and roll in and tweak my freaking knee. It's kind of one of those things where I knew it was kind of already hurt, but yeah, the road work kind of got into that. So I'll be back in as of next week. It should be back to normal, but yeah, I need to lose a little bit of weight. Mama's been taking good care of me though. Let's see. Machine's asking, what mods would you do to a red eye? And by the way, guys, thank you very much, brother. I appreciate the contribution to the cause. $1.99, I appreciate that. Machine's asking, what mods would you do to a red eye? Here's the cool thing. I'd throw a drag pack on it, and I would... Man, I hate to tell you this. I really wouldn't do much to it. Here's the thing about the red eye. You don't have to do anything to a red eye to get out there and run mid-10s in the heat. Drag pack and the car. That's it. Get out there and run it, have a ball with it. You don't even have to mess with trans tuning. Shift points are right where they need to be. If anything, if you want to throw a little bit of race gas in it, just a tad of 100 when you get to the track. And when I say a tad, just a scotch, man. Like, I don't know, 1.5 gallons, 2 gallons of 100 octane just to be on the safe side. Or hell, just run it 93. It's a stock car. That's all you got to do. You know, if you're asking me what would I do if it were my car, after being around the Demon for the amount of time that I was around it, and after seeing what the tunes look like for those cars, that and for the Red Eye, it's so hard for me to say. I mean, there's some minor things you can tweak in the tune, but realistically, just wheels and tires, gasoline, and keep the oil changed. If you really want to turn the wick up on that car, the same mods for a Hellcat would apply to the Red Eye. We're talking upper pulley, lower pulley, pin the pulley, or pin the lower for your upper pulley if you decide to go that route. You've got a fuel system that the pumps will accommodate E85, so larger injectors at that point. You know, you're looking at a solid 9-second combination. I mean, we're talking about something that's like mid-9s easy with just a few parts added. Again, upper pulley, lower pulley, injectors. You've got a fuel system, drag pack, keep the drive shaft, whatever. Maybe half shafts at that point. And again, just get out there and have a ball with the car. But I wouldn't really get too crazy with it. The only reason why I say that is there still does come a point where you hit that law of diminishing returns, where no matter how much more power you throw at the car, you're not going to do yourself any good. I mean, you're going to start running into limp mode issues. You're going to start running into very questionable fuel quality issues, things like that. Where the Red Eye is awesome, and where I do see a strong value with the Red Eye, is the fact that you are running more boost with a tune that is accommodating more boost, that I feel is a safer tune. And all the hot rod parts are kind of already done to the Red Eye. So again, for me, just drag pack, gasoline, oil changes, get the thing out there, run some mid 10-second quarter mile times, and have something that you know is practically bomb proof. That's just me though. Dr. Div saying, just texted you. Oh yeah, you got it. I will send you that over. The info for the track rental. Dim Boy saying, speaking of 2020, any news on the RT Chargers and Challengers? I know the SRTs are coming with wide body. Yeah, I mean, the wide body thing has been a thing for a while, but there's nothing really on the horizon just yet that they're giving away. So here's what I've heard. The LX platform is going to be slightly revised. It'll be a little bit lighter, but I don't know what that means in terms of a final product. Is it going to be 50 pounds lighter, 500 pounds lighter? You know, you figure somewhere in the middle, right? But the other thing about the new car is that there's no word as far as power is concerned. That's kind of one of those things where nobody's talking about it. And I think the reason why nobody's talking about it and that agenda really isn't being pushed is because sales at Challengers and Chargers are so strong. You know, if you take a look at what the Challenger has been able to do up against the Camaro, I mean, the Mustang's always going to be the leader because it's got a bit more of a broad appeal. But when you see what the Challenger has done to Camaro sales, there's not a whole lot of incentive to change it up too much. And there's no reason to try to play in the same sandbox as the Mustang or the Camaro, really, for that matter, because, well, let's face it, Mopar is different by design. And if you start to break into wherever that Mustang is in the hierarchy of lower weight and all that, you're starting to miss the point of Mopar in general, right? So I think that it's great that they're kind of doing their own thing, although they're kind of getting to the same place through different means. There's really no true competition there. And as long as they keep up that philosophy and don't try to go toe-to-toe with the Mustang, I don't think you're going to see much different coming from Mopar. And that's what I'm hoping anyway. Unique Grooming saying, the Supercharger spacer kits and blanket for the Hellcats. Have you considered running these to help with heat soak? Well, the thing is with those mods is at the drag strip, they don't really make a difference. They may make a difference on a dyno, and they might make some difference driving the thing around, but so far as I've seen, I got a buddy of mine that has the spacers. He may have the blanket now that you mention it. Anyway, to the touch, the blower is a little bit cooler, and by that metric, you might go, okay, well, there's a difference there, but we're not talking about a major margin of difference here. And again, it may play well on a dyno, but in actual application, the tune on his car is what's getting him down the track more quickly, not anything else. And of course, you run the taser and you run the cool down feature and all of that, you mitigate any gains that you would have had from those modifications through just letting the car sit and cool off in the pits. So unfortunately, although those parts do work in a laboratory type environment, if you want to think of it that way, in actual practice, they don't really do what you would hope that they would do. At least not near to the level that you might be led to believe. So I'm not trying to burst any bubbles here. I'm just saying that from what I have seen, that has been the result. And again, you're talking about a car that has a more aggressive tune than mine does. I mean, mine just has stock timing and a little bit more fuel than stock, versus something with significantly more timing with a significantly richer fuel mixture on 93. That's really all you need to throw one of these things down a drag strip at 131 miles an hour, 130 miles an hour with a stock gear. It didn't make any difference up through the eighth mile, and only just gave it an advantage on the big end of the track. And again, that comes from the tune, not really from anything else, because leading into those modifications, the result was still identical. So hopefully that answers that question. Hey, Mike checking in. Appreciate that. Saying good advice, throttle body and Hellcat airbox it is. That's all you need, brother. Give Fast Man a call. They don't pay me or anything like that to support their product. I'll only give my recommendations for products that I know work and work well. And mention my name, let them know I sent you. Let them know I said thank you for all the good work, but give them a shout. They'll get you taken care of. Then Boyce is asking, did you hear rumors about Dodge bringing back the Viper? I've known about that for about 3 years now. As a matter of fact, I've known about it since 2015 actually, about the direction that they're going in on that. I was looking to see when my badge from Mecum was, because I had a chance to visit with one of the Mopar reps for quite a while. Actually, it was an SRT rep. And I won't get into that because that conversation between he and I was actually kind of a long conversation, but the gist of it was that I knew that the Viper was being canceled, and I also knew what they had been testing and what they were kicking kind of down the road as far as ideas for the next Viper. And myself being a 3-time Viper owner, I can tell you that the conversation was pretty interesting, but there's no secret here. The V8 is something that they are planning on. If the rumor is true that they're bringing the Viper back, again, from what I was told, they are heavily leaning towards ditching the V10 in favor of a V8. Let's see. Du Bois's kind of follow-up question on that Viper. What are my thoughts on them getting rid of the V10 in favor of the V8? I think it's the best thing that they can do for that car. And again, not to belay the point here, I mean, I could do an entire live show just based on my thoughts on the Viper, or at least do a normal video on this. But for me, the V10 is not a special engine in my opinion, only because, okay, when the Viper was being developed, even Carroll Shelby at the initial, because he was, this is the new Cobra, right? The new Daytona Cobra in terms of the GTS, was pushing heavily for a small block, just a really pissed off small block. Dodge, having owned Lamborghini, the development of that V10 was a Lamborghini derived engine, and there's some other crap that comes with that. But anyway, long story short, that the V10 is not part of any other engine family in Dodge's modern powertrain environment. So because of that, it's a one-off. It's too expensive to just make V10s for Vipers and not have that tooling be able to do something else for another vehicle. So in that, you have a higher cost, which means that you're going to be pricing this thing away from your key competition, in this case being Corvette, which is in fact its own brand. Viper needs to be its own brand in that it needs to be able to be a standalone unit the way that the Corvette brand is. And the only way to do that is to give it more broad appeal. That means lower power V8, higher power V8, staggered tiers, just like the Corvette. Basically what I'm saying is that they have to follow the Corvette business model to make that car a viable platform moving forward. With the V10, that severely hampers that option. Even if the V10 is an optional engine, it then becomes a limited run option engine, which is going to make less power than an equivalently set up supercharged V8. There's some arguments for the V10, and I get it. It's the original Viper engine, the original Viper architecture. I see that, but it was never really embraced by a lot of people. And I love the V10. It's a cool engine. They're super easy to work on, but realistically, moving forward, that car has got to be a direct line of sight competitor to Corvette to remain a competitor long term, to maintain that viability for the platform long term. And with the V10, it's just never going to get there. Phillips checking in and said, hey, B, finally pulled the trigger on a 309 diff. And a rear seat delete. I like it for his wide body Challenger Hellcat. Keeping it simple and fun, similar to your car. Thinking about a rear diff brace also. Man, I think you're off to a good start, and I think you're going to have a lot of fun with it. So congrats on that. You're going to like it. Dim Boy saying, okay, basically, if it isn't broke, don't fix it, and the Camaro is dead in the water. Yeah, pretty much, and yes. Yeah, the problem with the Camaro is it just can't get over itself. It's so middle kid in its approach. And again, I've given my opinion of the car and where it falls in line with my upside down triangle, where, you know, the result is not better, it's worse. You know, it's not as chunky of a car in terms of torque as the Challenger 392, you know, so you lose some of that driving impression with that car. I think the gearing sucks on that car, and that's part of what makes it less appealing and less fun to drive when you compare it to the Challenger. And in terms of actual outright performance, it's just really not beating the Challenger at all. So at least not in practical terms. So there's that. So it's less fun in terms of being a torquey muscle car than the Challenger. And it doesn't do Mustang better than Mustang in terms of handling and comfort and ergonomics and everything else. It's just not on par with the Mustang there. So it slides downhill there. You get this weird inverted, it's the worst of both worlds as opposed to being the best. And I kid you not, the only way Camaro can win is to beat both Challenger and Mustang at their own game. A pretty bold order, and they're just not doing it at all. So, you know, it's one of these things too where it really wasn't even a valiant effort. You can see where there's improvements that could be made with the car, but for whatever reason, GM just fell upstairs on this thing. It just did not pan out, I think, the way that they thought. And regardless of how you price the car, it doesn't matter when the driving experience is still the same. It's not to say that you can't modify those cars. I mean, it's still LS derived, right? So you can make a ton of power with it, but, you know, and there's guys out there running 10s with those things naturally aspirated. That's fine, but nobody cares. It still costs money to mod the car. Just because it's less expensive and you do get results with them, whatever. The people aren't buying enough of them for that to even matter. So, yeah, for sure. I agree with that. Oh, Floyd saying, text me about the rental. I'll tell you what, I will do that. Let me write your number down. somewhere. Anyway, I'll go back and I will check this. Hold that thought. Let me write your number down. I'll text you. Bear with me. Hang on. Hopefully this thing doesn't fall down. All right, I'm back. Timeout. Oh. All right, Floyd, I'll write your number down on the back of one of these freaking time slips over here. Timeout. Let me see. Sorry about that. Had to bounce for a second. Let's see. Got it. All right, cool. Yeah, I might not be able to go back and check these comments, so I'll give you a holler and let you know. Any boy saying, I think you should do a live talk or a video on the Viper. I did a my thoughts on the Viper. It's buried somewhere in my playlist. It's in the my thoughts section. So check that video out. It's a little bit on the older side, but it still should be fairly relevant to what we're chatting about right now. But I may come back around and revisit that. Oh, the boy saying, true, because I noticed the Vet and the Camaro share the same engine. That's true, and one of the things about the Vet sharing the same engine as the Camaro, you know, I had spoken on this before. One of the interesting things there is that they do share the same engine and that the power level is the same. And that should give you an idea as far as why Chevrolet has been so successful despite itself. I mean, they take one engine and they put it in everything. That's a good thing. That's why the aftermarket loves them so much. Hey, Demonology checking in. Everybody say what's up to Demonology. Just came in from bracket racing. Hopefully you did well. Hopefully more important that you had fun. So for sure, everybody go check out Demonology's channel. Like it. Let's see. Du Bois want to ask you, do you think the 2020 refresh also hurt the sale of the Camaro? I don't think so. And the reason why I say that is because Camaro was hurting already. And although as ugly as that car is with the refresh, at least in my personal opinion, the aesthetics of the car can actually end up growing on you. And I get that. And I totally understand where that's coming from. With the refresh being an issue, but it was unnecessary, and that's part of what I'm getting at is, you know, instead of trying to refresh the car, which it wasn't enough of a refresh even to call it a refresh. That's the other thing. They didn't change anything. The big problem that I have with the Camaro is if you're going to change something, please make something more appealing, more exciting, invigorate my interest in that vehicle. And unfortunately, by manta raying the front of the car, it just didn't do anything for me, and you're still getting the same less than Mopar performance out of the thing than what you were getting before. So, you know, no change in gear ratio for the rear end, which the car desperately needs. No change in any aspect of that car that would get me off of dead center from a Challenger. Because nobody that's buying a Mustang is going to consider buying a Camaro. But there are quite a few crossovers from Ford and Chevy into the Challengers. So, interestingly enough, they didn't do anything to the performance of the car to level the playing field for themselves, because you're still in that trough, right? That we were talking about earlier. So nothing to elevate themselves to one level or another, and all they did was just polarize existing Camaro owners. I think the biggest thing with the refresh is that they just pissed off people that were thinking about trading up to the next Camaro. They start looking at that and go, man, this new Challenger's looking good. There's a lot of neat new features with the Challenger. And then so, you know, what's the best way to generate sales for the Challenger, I guess, is to put an ugly face on the Camaro. So, yeah, I would say it did hurt a little bit. Samuel Jackson's Camaros for Transformer fanboys. Oh, Demonology is saying he raced the fastest 2019 Supra. It came up from Houston. Yeah, he was at the track last night, as a matter of fact, I think. But I didn't see what he ran. Let's see, we got everybody checking in with demonology. Let's see. Could the refresh Camaro, this is God's Junk asking, could the refresh Camaro be a rare, valuable find? No, not really. I mean, to some people, I mean, you would have to, I'm going to answer that question by saying this. In every flea market, there is somebody that has a gadget, a gizmo, or a trinket that somebody out there is dying to find. In every thrift store, the same thing. 100 people can walk past it and not recognize it for the magical, wonderful thing that it is to that one person that's out there looking for it. But as far as being universally accepted as being awesome, nobody is going to ever look at that trinket, gadget, or gizmo and think that it's anything worth giving money for over and above what its normal pedestrian version would be. What I'm getting at is that just because something is rare doesn't make it valuable, and it doesn't make it special. And I've gone back to my shit sandwich routine. I mean, look, a shit sandwich is pretty rare on the boardwalk. You don't see anybody selling them. It doesn't make it special. It doesn't make it unique. It makes it a shit sandwich. And that's kind of how I see that new Camaro. There's nothing good about it. There's nothing special about it. And only to some connoisseur that is just dying to find that one perfect Camaro that, you know, just works in that person's eyes. Look, there's a seat for every ass, and I say go for it if that's what blows your hair back. But as far as down the line, 30 years from now, that thing being worth a bunch of money because it's only a one-year thing, I would say no. I would say no big time, and because there's no special version of that car. They'll make as many ZL1s as you want, and the ZL1 doesn't really fall into the refresh program the way that the SS did. And since the SS is getting boat raced by both Mopar and Ford at its own game, no. I think a more valuable car at that point would be a 1320 or, you know, a GT350 or something along those lines, something that's got a little bit of a story behind it, or that is special because it's a one-off or a more focused built version of that platform. The refresh isn't that. Dimboy's asking, do you think Ford is going to follow in the footsteps of Chevy and make the Mustang mid-engine? No. You will not see anything like that. The reason why the Corvette is mid-engine, aside from the Zora artist Duntov references, is, you know, Corvette needed to kind of get with the program. And I think they had taken this front engine rear drive thing about as far as it would go. The mid-engine thing is really cool that Corvette is doing, and you know, there's some historical significance to it, but not really with the Mustang. So I'll say no to that. Let's see. Oh, the boy's saying there was basically no reason to trade up from the 70 to 18 Camaro, but like you said, they didn't increase the horsepower, add anything special to the car, and make it look different. Yeah, I mean, it's you're talking about the 16 to 18. Yeah, there's just no reason for it, so, you know, it didn't do any good to trade up. And that's really more to the point. And the only audience that they're capturing, by the way, with that car are existing Chevrolet fans. They're not bringing Ford owners into the fold, and they're not bringing Mopar fans or owners into that fold either. They actually alienated more than they, I don't know, included or incorporated those buyers, potential buyers. Dr. Diff's chatting out of Demonology. Bowtie saying, hey, makes it good to hear you, brother. Good to hear you too, man. Thank you. Saying he ran his 17 Challenger Cat stock with drive shaft 309 against the 2014 GT500 stock in very close races. Cat pulled just a fender. Sounds about normal. Yeah, on the street for sure. You know, the 2014 GT500 is really no slouch. And the gear ratios actually help that car out. It's a lighter car than yours is, and the power isn't that much removed. 355 gear, I believe, in the GT500, so based on gear ratios and the fact that his car is lighter, power level is, he's about 40 odd horsepower down, but again, lighter weight. Power to weight ratio is about the same. You're just looking at just at a really close race, but as you found out, Dodge is going to be a little bit quicker on the big end, a little bit stronger on the big end, I should say. So, predictable outcome, and I love GT500s, guys. Y'all know that. Absolutely love them. Oh, wait, hang on. Oh, Sean's in the house saying, better late than never. Here I am, so far so good with the new drive shaft. Couldn't be happier with it, man. And I know that I'm in a unique position to be able to put that drive shaft in my car, and I am very thankful for multiple Mopars getting me that red-eye drive shaft for my car. Cannot possibly be happier. Again, very blessed and thankful for him doing that. I'll tell you something. That's really, why I was setting this conversation off. Kind of bringing the conversation around full circle. My thing with the aftermarket drive shaft companies, I should say, is I get the reason why one-piece drive shaft. It keeps it affordable. They're known for durability, being able to handle a ton of power from now until the end of time, and I understand that. However, the geometry just cluster that's going on with this car, it really does, in my personal opinion, require a two-piece drive shaft. There are a couple of companies that do offer two-piece drive shafts, but they're over $3,000, which will never get it done in my book. I believe DSS might be working on a two-piece right now, and I would love to give that the opportunity that it deserves. I'm sure it'll be very expensive, but in the meantime, if they ever do release it, great. But I don't know that I will ever put my drive shaft in a position where I would need to then upgrade drive shafts. If I ever do need to upgrade, I'll be looking for, I should say, one of the aftermarket drive shaft companies to have already released a two-piece and to have had a certain level of success with that two-piece before I decide I'm ever going to put another drive shaft in the car. And if that were to be the case, or at least were not to be the case, I now know how to get my hands on a Demon or Red Eye drive shaft, in this case, moving forward, and or at least I've got a way to get my hands on one that's still a bit of red tape, but I like the fact that I'm running a stock part, and it's all Mopar parts that are in my car. Mopar rear seat delete, factory airbox, factory filter, factory Mopar, part number drive shaft, with the only factory Mopar gear, the only difference being a little bit of a tweak in a transmission tune, and that's it. Love being able to say it's an all Mopar build, which is, well, aside from the wheels and tires, obvious things, right? But I like being able to say that. It means something to me to have a lot of factory parts and getting the most out of factory parts that I can. The boy's saying, but when I sat inside a 15 Corvette, and even though the interior was smaller, I felt it was way more comfortable in the Vet than I did in the Camaro. Well, yeah, I mean, listen, ergonomics in the Corvette cannot be argued with. It's one of my favorite things about Alex's Z06, the one that he uses in Optima Ultimate Street Car Challenge, which is for sale, I still think, by the way. That car is so fun to drive, and the ergonomics are just so good. And I'm sorry, guys, but I did not feel that way about the Camaro. In fact, I like the 5th gen Camaro a lot, which leads me into something else. I really like the 5th gen Camaro for all the fun things you can do with those cars. And it just kind of bummed me out that the 6th gen didn't do more of that. For whatever reason, that the 6th gen never ever gelled with me, whereas the 5th gen always really liked it. So, I don't know. Kind of a weird thing. Floyd's asking, track rental will be just one lane only, I'm guessing. Hell no, it ain't gonna be one lane, brother. We're running both lanes. I can't do a track rental and not have both lanes. You think you're gonna get away with bringing that fast ass SS 454 over there and not me lining up against it? Dude, these two cars are too freaking close to not line up. It's gonna be a driver's race. But no, seriously though, we're going to have both lanes prepped for the track rental. And I'm still jealous of your truck, so I'm going to give you a hard time. Du Bois is saying, also when I test drove the Camaro and saying the Vet, they were at non-Chevy dealerships. Hey, Shawnee's checking in. Contribution to the cause, saying a little donation for some rear traction. Man, I appreciate that. You're still looking for that first 1030. It'll happen pretty soon. Yeah, it will. We're looking to get some 30s out of this thing with some decent track prep and a little bit more reasonable density altitude. Man, it has been so hot, so gross, so nasty. But, you know, we're here getting data. We're here getting valuable, you know, information on these modifications and on the tunes, finding out what the cars are going to like, what fuel the cars like. You know, that's the big thing right now. And, you know, so far the takeaway has been this. You know, my car does not like 104 at all. Oddly enough, not only does it not like 104, hang on just a second. It's not that it really lost power, it's just that it never really gained anything off of 104. It really likes 100 octane though with the stock timing. So kind of take that for what it's worth, I guess. And you know, as far as, you know, what I've been able to get out of the car, you know, right now it's run 1040s, but at just ridiculous DA. And with the new gear and the trans tune, you know, mid 20s to low 20s is what I'm shooting for. I may, and the other question has been, will I put an engine tune on the car? Guys, let me tell you how close I am to doing that. All I would need to do is change timing and fuel at wide open, and the car would have probably another 40 horsepower. But I'm not quite there yet. I'm not ready to give up on stock timing values and all of that just yet. So we're going to see how deep we can take it on stock boost, stock timing. You know, just keep the car as stock as possible. My philosophy on my car is this: I am optimizing the car in stock form with an augmentation in transmission tuning and a gear. That's my way of looking at my car right now, and throwing more timing at it, making the richer mixture and all of that come into play. To me, that is really what would separate the car from a stock car. You know, obviously there's a lot more done to the car than factory, but to throw a tune at the car, I'm not so sure I'm going to gain a lot by doing that, but I don't know. We'll see. I'm not going to say that I haven't already put a tune together. Let's just put it to you that way. CryptoCat's coming in and saying, hey guys, how's it going? Hope it's going well for you. David checking in and saying, nice car, my guy. Appreciate that. Hothead's checking in and saying, what up, you Mason? Great stuff, brother. Man, I appreciate that. Shawnee, our brother from up north, the Great White North, is saying that DA is dropping like a rock up here in beautiful Minnesota. 1060 in my near future. I'm dying to get my first 130 mile an hour pass. It's coming soon. It is coming soon. And then boys running saying, so out of all the cars out now, which one would you say is the king of the modern era? Okay, so the king of the modern era, you've got to separate. There's got to be a line of demarcation here. And that line of demarcation is based on price. What is the next thing? Well, what car has the highest amount of street cred is basically what you got to put out there. If you roll up to any drag strip or you roll down the street, what have you, who's going to be taking pictures of that car? For vehicles under $200,000, number one, can't touch the Demon. It's captured way too much of the public's imagination. Here's the funny thing about that. People ask me if my car is a Demon all the time for a couple of reasons. One, it's red, which automatically makes it a Demon, right? And two, I've got black wheels on it, which automatically makes it a Demon, apparently. But that's just how ingrained that Demon is with the public in general. You know, they see a red Hellcat on a drag pack, that's a Demon. And so You can say that it's the King because the name Demon is now being used to describe other cars of its same kind, like the Hellcat that is in drag race form. That it's a demonized Hellcat is what, the way the public perceives it in a way. So the Demon wins that argument every time. In cars that cost more than $200,000 or $250,000, it's alphabet soup as far as I'm concerned. Pick something that you like, and you can make an argument for it. The 720 is a big one. You can even start getting into, some of the Ferraris at that point, but, like the LaFerrari, NSX doesn't get enough love, but I think it deserves mention here. You start getting into the big money cars, yeah, you're going to start seeing some arguments, but for the real world, and even then, by the way, you take those cars, Murcielago is a good one. It takes something that outlandish to avert eyes away from cars like the Demon, like the Red Eye is, if the Demon's the king, then the Red Eye's the prince. Everybody knows that the Red Eye, but the Red Eye will forever be compared to the Demon. No matter what heights the Red Eye can get to, it'll never be the Demon. So, straight up the Demon. And the thing about the Demon, and this is true of the Hellcat, but the Demon and the Hellcat, and obviously the Red Eye, anything Mopar related on a drag pack will always be the yardstick that everything else is used to be measured against. So, in the quarter mile, will it beat a Demon? If it doesn't beat a Demon, it doesn't matter at that point, right? So, stock for stock, Demon wins that argument every single time. Shawnee's saying you should have a race gas only tune, 100 octane, just for race day. Funny you should say that. I've actually, I've toyed around with the idea of just throwing a race gas tune in the car. The difference is, all it is AF, air fuel ratio, or in this case, in these tunes, it's fuel air if you want to be technical, and timing, and that's it. So yeah, 100 octane. I'm pretty sure I can put a tune together that'll work just fine with that. But again, is it worth it? Not really. Not for what I'm going for, too, because it's almost like a fake number. The tune that I run, I want to be able to run 93 octane pump gasoline in all conditions, be able to play with it wide open, run the thing up on the freeway if I need to, onto an on-ramp, merging, whatever. Anyway, I want to be able to use the car on the street without having to resort to having an exotic fuel in the car. And right now, E85 is just out of the question because, I don't feel like buying the injectors or the fuel system for that matter. Let's see. Dimboy saying, yeah, that's what I was thinking. The Demon is what the 1970 Chevelle SS454 was back in the day. And then he's saying, I'm surprised you didn't get a Demon. That's not the first time I've heard the Demon thing. Actually, the Demon, if you're to liken it to a car from the 60s, the Demon would be that Hemi Challenger, that Hemi Cuda, that nobody really bought back then. Limited production. There's a place for it, but the street really wasn't the place. Even for the street Hemis, they were not the best. That's another thing where people go, the Hemi, it's rare, it's great. Listen, Dodge made as many Hemis as people would buy. People just didn't buy them, and the difference in price. This might be a bit of a shock, but it was, in adjusted dollars would be like $8,000. Maybe $7,500 if you're talking about over the cost of just a regular big block car. That's a big ask. It's like saying that for $8,000 more than a Hellcat, you could get this this upgraded car, the Demon, which isn't really too far away from the truth. But back then, cars were less expensive, dollar for dollar. In other words, if you made a dollar your average income, that versus what a car cost you was less back then. So oddly enough, it'd be easier to afford a Hemi Cuda back in the day, just making a normal salary. But anyway, that being said, yeah, I looked at the Demon, and the way that I looked at the Demon was, it was just a financial thing. It was just, do I want to spend the money? Is it financially viable? And for me, it was more of a not. And there's sometimes I wish I kind of would have, and other times I'm glad I didn't. So. Let's see. Speed Freak is saying, hey B, was at a car show today, saw a few gassers. Oh, cool, I love those cars. And Retro Nitro Funny Cars. I noticed a lot of them had blown Hemi motors, and not many Chevy motors, well over 2,000 horsepower on some. Back in the day, they were running the 354 cubic inch Hemi, Chrysler Hemi, DeSoto Hemi actually, is what you'd have seen. The 392s came in. Don Garlitz ran 392s, I believe, with his cars. But the 354 was the more popular version, I think, because they just had better access to them. And, but yeah, you'd see blown Hemis all the time, and they were almost always 354s. Or I'm sorry, yeah, the 354s or 345s. I'm sorry, 345s. Cool engine. Shawnee's asking, could you run 999 on 93 octane, or would it be a special day with an aggressive 100 octane tune? Man, on stock timing, it would be a lot to ask. I think the quickest I've seen anybody run on stock boost is a 989 on E85 with a very aggressive tune. I want to say that's the most aggressive that I've seen. I'm sorry, the fastest I've seen on stock boost. There might be somebody that had run quicker, but I doubt it. On race gas, it's going to be a little bit different story, because you cannot be quite as aggressive on race gas as you can on E85, but you're very close. But the thing is with E85, just the extra fuel mass is what's helping you in that case. Man, I'll tell you what, I would say that 999 would be very difficult. On 93 octane, I'm shooting for a 1010, although realistically, I'll be very happy with a 1020, anything for that matter in low DA. I think that on race gas, I could probably get a 9 out of the car, but it would take some really, really solid density altitude for that to happen. And a very well-prepped track, and I would have to lose probably about 30 or 40 pounds myself. We're talking, get the thing down as low as possible in terms of weight, pull the sway bar, pull everything as much out of the car as possible. Can probably get away with it, but I'm not going to take it that far. I want to see what I can do with the car, the way that I drive the thing around, regardless of if I'm at the drag strip or just taking the thing for a cruise. And realistically, for me, my speaker box hasn't been in the car for a while, and I haven't missed it. Would rather have the trunk space to, when I'm buying dumb stuff, when I'm out and about. So, but yeah, my car, just the way it sits now, like I say, I'd be doing really good to get, low 20s is kind of the secret goal. And, if I need to see what I can do with a tune, then there's ways around that. We can make that work. Let's see. Dim Boy's asking, so what do you think is the best and most reliable engine? The 6.2 LT1, LT5, the 5.7, 6.4 Hemi, or the 5-liter Coyote 5.2 Voodoo? Okay, well, let's kind of break that down as far as track record goes. We're going to take the 6.4 and 5.7 out of the running straight away, because we all know the issues that those things have been running into. I'm going to take the 6.2 LT1 and LT5 out of the mix. Just because reasons. I just don't like direct injection all that much. So that's to me, reliability also has a component of maintenance. the 5.2 liter Voodoo has proven to be pretty good, but if you beat on the thing mercilessly, those cars have had issues braking as well, which leaves us with the Coyote. And technically speaking, the Coyote is a truck motor too, just like the 5.7 or the 6.4. But in this case, it's not very far removed. And for me, in terms of overall durability, it is incredibly difficult to argue that the 5 liter is going to win that race in this case. If you were to tell me that you had 300,000 miles on a 5 liter, I wouldn't be surprised. We've got fleet vehicles for the company that I work for that are 5 liter trucks with the 6-speed automatic, and they're coming up on 300,000 miles and still run flawlessly. No smoke, no nothing. And I mean, when I say flawlessly, they run like they're brand new. So from what I've seen personally, Coyote wins that argument. Let's see. Gods is checking in saying, I've always wanted to buy a used Challenger 5.7 and mod it, but I'm scared of regulations there in California. Having a simple exhaust upgrades would have me pulled over. Yeah, the People's Republic of California is really kind of cracking down on stuff like that. And it's a real shame, too, because that's kind of the epicenter of the original hot rod movement. But, yeah, unless you've got something pre-1974, you're really not going to have a whole lot of love in terms of mods on anything, for that matter. Dim Boy's asking, why do I not like the direct injection motors? The reason why I don't like them is the carbon deposits that you get with those engines. There's nothing washing the back of the intake valve, and because of the overlap in the camshaft, you're always going to get some fuel vapor that comes up on the back side of that intake valve. And with nothing to wash that backwash, if you want to call it, off the intake valve, you'll start to get deposits on the back of the intake valve. And over time, you'll notice this is something that does happen. On the valve stem itself, you'll get a ring of deposits start to form, and it looks like a donut. It actually looks like an O-ring that just is sitting in the middle of that valve, and that's because of the fact that there's nothing washing that stuff off the back of the intake valve. And so you end up, they start to lose flow capacity. They're dirty looking when you take them apart. Is it bad for durability? Yeah, probably not, but you do lose a little bit of power, and you're adding weight to the valve train as it sits with the deposits. I know that's a minor thing, but it's just something that irks at me. But yeah, I mean, I've seen it with my own 2 eyes, and you have to mechanically clean it. In other words, you have to get in there and get that stuff off. You can't just run seafoam in the thing and clean it. It doesn't work like that. So it's an arduous process to clean, and it's unnecessary. It's something that Ford figured out early on with the Coyote platform. It's why or leading into the Coyote, the latest Coyote platform, and it's why the newer engines have direct injection with a secondary rail injection to keep the intake valves clean. So that's why. Let's see. Dib Boys Running said the street shutdowns and highway takeovers are what brought up all the strict laws in California. Yeah, that sucks. That's what happened. Let's see. How do you correct that issue if you have a direct injection car? The way you correct it is by good housekeeping measures. When you first get that car, I would say about once every 3 to 6 months, have the car serviced with an intake valve cleaning regimen. Basically what they do is they fog the intake manifold with this foam that's like a hot rodded version of seafoam, and what you're doing is you're trying to get the very minor deposits that are starting to form, get those out of there. I believe that's the only way you can really from a long-term standpoint stay ahead of that issue. There's nothing, I mean, it doesn't do any good to run seafoam in the gasoline because the gasoline is still going to, because of that backwash effect, it's still going to get onto the valve, so you're stuck. I mean, that the whole idea is to keep as much of that in the cylinder as possible. So there's that reason right there in a nutshell, that you need to stay on top of it, good housekeeping and whatnot. If you're not staying on top of it, you may never even notice a diminished performance with the vehicle, but it definitely is there, and it's definitely a thing. And it's another reason why a lot of car guys started moving away from Chevrolet. They got cute with the direct injection thing, but they forgot that people do their homework, and when they hear that this is kind of a problem, they kind of start shying away from it. Shawnee's saying, how many super chats until you tint your windows? Texas sun is harsh. You know, I never really think about it, so I don't know. It is going to get tinted windows eventually, though, I'm sure. And boy's saying, so you can go to a dealership and they can clean your direct injected engine. Yes, in fact, it's a service that that the dealerships have, and it's not cheap. I haven't ever priced it, but I'm pretty sure it's not very cheap anyway. And yeah, it's a special procedure. They have their own special machine that goes in there and does that. Kind of a pain in the ass, and a bit of a shame, really, if you think about it, because you know what makes the LS so great is its universal appeal to hot rodders, and you know, low maintenance. That's a big part of universal appeal, and if you don't have that portion going for you, really, what do you got? You know, it's a pain in the ass that's mediocre compared to a 6.4. Yeah, I think I'll take a Coyote over that, at least in terms of durability. But at any rate, guys, well, look, we're coming up on about 2 hours. I got to get started on cleaning this thing up because she is filthy. Got a new set of tires coming for us, so can't wait to get those onto the drag strip. Thank y'all very much for that, by the way. And we are going to be shooting for some lower ETs here once the DA starts to drop. Can't wait to see how high of a DA it's going to take me to beat my personal best of a 1047 with the stock tune and with the stock diff, but it's coming. It's certainly coming sooner, hopefully, than later. And stay tuned, because we're going to have some fun stuff coming here, and I will get in touch with you guys about that track rental if you guys are that have claimed being interested in that. So I'll get with you guys on that. Got one more from them boys, and I'm going to sign off saying I only bought my cars from Texas. I'm from Arkansas, so I'm not too far away from the major cities like Dallas and Houston, so it's not hard for me to find the cars that I want. I like it. CryptoCat saying, appreciate your knowledge, always learn something from your videos, man. Thank you very much. I appreciate you hanging out. And with that, that is a wrap. Hope y'all have a great rest of your weekend. Talk to you guys on the next one. Adios.